Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Linda,
I'm Andrea.
and before we get into the topic we're going to be talking about, Andrea's got this fantastic tip. So,
Yes.
ladies,
So you are going to be surprised because I definitely was. I was flipping through Facebook and I happened to see this mustard jar on the post. So curiosity got the best of me and I tapped in. And all these years that I've used mustard, I never knew this. So if you look at your mustard container, and when you pour, you just open it up and you go like this and mustard gets all gucked inside. Well, I'm sure you didn't know, because I didn't know, maybe some did. There's a little tab at the back and you take the lid and you just snap it in.
and that's at least with French's. Hopefully the others are all like that. I didn't know that either.
No.
And I'm a big mustard user.
So am I, and I use quite a bit of it. And all these years, I did not know that they had that little tab on the back that you could snap it in place so that when you pour, the mustard doesn't flip back inside and you have to clean it out.
It's kind of interesting. We've all been using mustard for many, many years. Since I was a kid, I remember
Right.
using mustard.
Right.
And when they started getting into these squeeze things, that not one of our friends has even mentioned
Mention
that.
it, or that it's on the bottle. You think
Yeah.
that it would say on here somewhere, there's a
Snap
tab,
back.
snap back. There you go, ladies. Now you know how to keep your lid clean.
Wow.
Hope that helps.
So the reason I didn't give you the title of today's topic is because I wanted Andrea, we were talking about something she saw on Facebook yesterday, and it really has to do with why we do the show, Women Supporting Women. And she read something yesterday on Facebook. She's going to tell you what it is, and this is going to start the conversation of women supporting women.
So yes, I was scrolling through Facebook like I do sometimes at night, and I saw this quote, and it's by an unknown writer, but it hit me. I read a lot of them on Facebook, and they're encouraging, and I like them, and I'll like them on Facebook, and sometimes I'll share them. But this one hit me, and it was basically said, "My path may not be your path, and your path may not be my path, but if I meet you on that path, may we encourage each other." Wow, it just hit me, and I was blown away by it. I liked it and I shared it, and a lot of people have responded to it. It was just a wonderful saying.
And so it got me thinking when we were talking about it, when Andrew told me about it, and recently when I was coming back from vacation, on the plane, I've got 8 hours to kill. And so I ended up watching a series called Julia. And it's a new series that only came out in 2022, which is kind of interesting. I hadn't heard about it, but also I don't really have TV at home, and I don't have HBO for sure.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the thing is, Julia is Julia Child, and she was a cook on TV on a PBS station back in the early 60s. But what was interesting about it, it was her early start in, I'm going to say, women working outside the home. And it wasn't really that she got paid, because initially she did not get paid, but it was something that she loved doing. She loved to cook, and she wanted to teach American women how to actually make French cuisine, which is something that they really didn't do.
That's
and
right.
we all grew up in a time where food was pretty basic, at least in our culture.
Yes.
You had your chicken dinners and
Your meat and potatoes.
meat and potatoes and vegetables, and that was
Right.
kind of it. And so she wanted to do something different because she loved cooking. And what was happening that I was telling Andrea was that the show ended up taking off, and even though she initially paid to be on the show, she paid for the production, the food, everything. She wanted to share the love of what she enjoyed doing, and
Passion.
she had a real passion for that, and she loved cooking for her husband. Well, she was at an event, I believe it was in New York City, and what happened was there was a lady, there was like a little bit of an intermission, and this lady at the next table introduced herself and all that. But this lady happened to be a feminist. And this is going back into the early 60s. And, we kind of grew up with feminists,
Just
during...
getting started.
Yeah, like,
burning a bra.
Yeah, and that would have been during the 70s and
Yeah.
stuff, and it continued and stuff.
Right.
But what was interesting was the fact was she kind of made Julia feel bad about what she was doing on TV, because she said she's tying more women to the kitchen because the meals, even though the show was only a 30-minute show, the fact is the meals took much longer than that. So then that meant that women would have to spend more time shopping, more time preparing food, doing all the other things. And as a feminist, she resented that.
Wow.
But she didn't understand that what Julia was doing was carving a path into doing something outside the home.
Exactly.
She just happened to do something outside the home that she was passionate about. And one of the things that came up in the series was the fact that her husband explained to her, really, you're not doing it for those people that don't want to be in the kitchen and cooking for their families. You're doing it for the thousands of people that really enjoy cooking and want to do this for their families, because in life we can't please everybody.
Exactly.
And Andrew and I were talking about the fact that when she was first married and ended up having, I'll say, her second child, she made a decision to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened during that time, Andrew, for you? Because that would have been back in the I'll
80s.
say, early
1985, 84, 85. And that was a decision I made for myself. I wanted to be home to raise my children. My mother was home. That's what I knew. My husband's mother worked. That's what he knew. But I had to be happy. I wasn't happy going to work every day. I wanted to be home. And I got a lot of, very many negative comments like, oh, why are you staying home? Women don't have to, stay home nowadays. You should be out working and helping your family. And I thought to myself, am I doing the wrong thing? Like, they made me kind of doubt it in a way. And then after I thought, no. You know what? This is what I want. This is what makes me happy. Maybe you're happy working and that makes you happy. So fine. So it goes with that saying, your path's not mine, mine's not yours. But if we meet on the path, may we encourage each other instead of saying to me, wow, good for you. I wouldn't want to stay home, but if you want to stay home, good for you. If you need anything, you need any help, give me a call. Didn't get that.
Because the thing is, I think what women...
Well, I'm sorry, I did from one friend.
Oh.
One friend who was a working woman, didn't have children, and she always encouraged me, always said, good for you, and whenever I would be, some days, you're down or whatever, oh, Andrea, you're doing great, your kids are wonderful, you're doing a great job, and lifted me up again,
and actually
that's what you need.
You can be down once in a while when you're working, because
oh, absolutely. I was down more when I worked than when I was at home.
And even with that, sometimes people, they're working because maybe they feel like they have to, and they're feeling the guilt and all that. But they're mostly feeling guilt, I think, because of what you said. Some people will make them feel guilty going to work. Some people will make you feel guilty staying at home. But the whole thing with the feminist movement, at least what I always believed, is that women should have an equal choice.
Right.
It shouldn't be dictated by society. It shouldn't be dictated by a spouse or a partner. It should be what makes you happy.
Exactly. And some people are fortunate. They get to work with their passion. So like Julia Child, her passion was cooking. And she got to do that. My daughter loves to dance. She's a dance teacher. She said to me years ago, Mom, thank you so much for giving me something that is my lifetime career, that I'm happy to go to work every day. How wonderful is that? And maybe if I had been working all those years, I wouldn't have taken the time to get her in the dance world and all that we had to do. And I mean, there are working mothers out there that do it, but maybe they rely on other parents to help out, other mothers that are home. And that's fantastic. That's the way to do it. Somebody wants to work, but their children want to be involved in a program. Reach out to the other mothers that are maybe more flexible with their time. You know, do you mind driving my daughter or picking her up? And when I'm available, I'll do it. That's what we should be doing. You know,
Absolutely.
helping each other with our strengths.
Yeah.
Instead of making us feel bad, you know, or guilty about. And then there are women that are home mothers that guilt trip working mothers.
Yeah.
You know, how can you leave your children all day? But, well, hello, you know, this has been going on for centuries, and it works out. We make it work if we help each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mother actually worked outside the home when it wasn't common to do that, but she ended up working, well, mostly she worked because she had to. Financially, my dad said, I can't do it all on my own. And so what my mother did was she took a job where she waitressed at night where my dad would be home. So there was always one parent at home. But you do whatever works for you.
Exactly.
But my mother, even though she went to work, my mother didn't resent my father because he said, you know, you have to go to work. She did it because that's what she wanted to do. And for her, she actually enjoyed the outlet because she worked at she waitressed, but she worked for the longest time in a Chinese restaurant. And she just loved working.
And because she was a social person
too.
Very
social.
That got her out of the house.
Yes.
I remember when my mother finally started working
when the kids were older.
When the kids were older at the hall cooking for, you know, weddings and whatnot. Wow, it's like you opened up the floodgates. She loved it because of the social aspect.
Well, she worked with all those ladies that became her friends, right?
Lifelong friends, and they had so much fun together. Yeah. And so there's a time for it and a time to do other things, and you have to see what suits your schedule. I mean, back in their day, 6 and 7 children, 8 children. Yeah. One house on our street had 13, one had 11. How could both parents work? You know, it was very difficult. But they did what they had to do, and then they got out there after and really enjoyed themselves. A little bit too much sometimes.
But you know what's interesting though, because I remember, and again, it goes back to having choices. And I remember that when my dad would go to work, especially when my mom wasn't working, my dad would go to work afternoon shift because he worked in the mines and he had the different shifts. So when he would go to work in the afternoon, they used to take turns driving. So there were a number of men that would go, they would all go together. And so when my dad would leave the car at home, my mother would take the car and learn how to drive. But my father, when he found out, didn't give her heck because back then they wanted to keep them, you know, barefoot and pregnant kind of thing. And I mean, my mom did raise 7 kids.
That's right.
The fact is, though, my mother was an independent woman who made independent decisions. And my father was quite supportive.
And whereas my mother never wanted to learn to drive.
Yeah, and that was a choice she made.
That was a choice she made. And my father was happy to take her wherever she wanted to go.
And I think in one way, my father was happy that my mother drove.
Yeah, so and then later on in years, my mother was happy your mother was driving because then they drove each other around, or she drove my mom everywhere. Yes. They had a lot of fun together.
Yeah. But the thing is, so it was interesting to kind of talk about the feminist movement only because when Andrea read that on Facebook, we're still faced on day in, day out with people being judged
shaming,
for making,
judging.
the shaming and everything else for decision that you make. And, you know, I always thought we lived in a free country and we should be able to make decisions based on our wants and needs, not because of what society dictates is the right thing.
Exactly.
When you do the right thing in the sense of if you want to work or whatever, you're not going out robbing banks and doing whatever. Then I can understand why society said, no, that's a bad thing. You're not supposed to do that and judge you. But the fact is, as women, we need to support each other in whatever the decisions are. And that will help encourage more women to become successful, whether it's successful at being a mother, a wife, a friend,
A doctor, a lawyer.
yes, or anything professionally.
Exactly.
And whether it's even in her own business or working for a company.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be a choice.
Right.
And always lift your friends and even strangers when you meet other women. And we were talking about this on another episode about when you're at events and things and you're getting to know people and you're getting to find out a little bit more about them. Encourage them. Don't ever make them feel bad because it's not something that you believe in.
Exactly. Like, oh, why would you do that? Or why are you doing that? Just say, oh, that's interesting, and find out more about it. And then you can encourage them if that's what you feel you should do. If not, then just, zip it up.
Yeah, because it's better left unsaid.
Exactly.
If you have different opinions and feel...
And we all have different opinions.
We all do, absolutely.
Exactly. And my opinion's not any better than yours,
right.
On certain issues. Like, if you want to talk about how you should raise children or, should you put them in sports, that's up to me to decide for my child. And if you don't think that, I should be busying my children with after school programs and more staying at home, then, keep that to yourself or just say, well, that's nice. If your children like that, that's great. And leave it at that. But, there's no need to go on and on about how you feel about something if it's not how the other person feels.
Right. So why do you have to make somebody else feel bad because it's not what you would do? Exactly. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And
with your beliefs, with everything, the same with, especially with beliefs. Everybody has different beliefs.
Right.
And, you can just encourage them and just say, oh, that's nice. And that's, and move on. And move on.
I remember at one point when I was moving, and right now I'm currently in a small apartment, but I will eventually get back into a house. And I was telling a friend of mine that I wanted to buy a dog. And I've never had a pet, so she was saying, oh, no, you don't want a dog. It's too much work and everything else. Now, I realize that that's not part of a feminist movement, but it's still somebody telling me, an adult, what I should do or what I shouldn't do.
That's not a good decision.
And I'm like, okay, maybe
I got a
that's not for
confession
you.
to make, Linda, because I was talking to my sister last night. She said the same thing. Oh, I think I might want to get a dog. I said, what? Are you out of your mind? And then I thought to myself, whoa, what are you saying? I said, listen, think about it because it's not as easy as it looks to be. But if that's what you want and if that's what you decide to do, great. But my first reaction was to say, are you out of your mind?
You know what the thing is, and I realize it is a lot of work, although I haven't done it. The thing is, a dog or any pet that you choose is a companion as well. I live alone. You come home to a busy house all the time.
Yes.
And I go home to an empty apartment constantly. And, lately I've been having some health issues in the sense of my legs are not working properly, but that's partly, I think, for the last 3 years of being not so active because of COVID. And that is a good excuse for everybody, right? But the thing is, I wasn't going to the gym. I sit at my job and I sit in the car, and my apartment's small, so I don't get to move around a lot in my apartment. And I thought, even with that, eventually when I get my house, the dog, I'll be walking the dog. I have someone to talk to. The dog will be company. The dog will be waiting for me.
Oh, there's so many good things about owning a dog. And as long as you're prepared for the constant care.
Yes.
And that's my thing. If we've had many dogs, and the thing is, the care they need. It's not like a cat. You can leave a cat for 2 days, they're fine. You cannot do that with a dog.
No.
A dog's like an infant for its whole life.
Right. But regardless of my decision, it should be my decision.
Exactly.
And again, I've always been a kind of person, I don't like people telling me what to do. And I especially want to do when somebody tells me I shouldn't do it, because it's my choice and my life. And so when it comes to women doing whatever it is that they want to do, we have to learn how to support other women and make them feel better, encourage them.
Encourage them.
I just think that, you know what? we can do a lot more of that.
Yes.
I think that in life we become so accustomed almost to a competition
Yes.
of somebody being better than the other
or
person.
knowing more, or
Yeah.
being more right, and my ideas are better than yours, or you know, my reasonings for not doing something are better than yours, or vice versa. I don't know why we're like that. I
Yeah.
think it's the social media and everything. Everybody's trying to
One up each other.
15 minutes of fame or whatever it
Yeah.
is, one up each other, and it's getting old.
Yeah.
You know, I just now I feel like in my heart when I talk to people or women, that's what I want to do. I want to hear what they say, and then lift them up, somehow.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do, and it would bring so much pleasure to a lot of people.
Yes.
So, you know, I think that women, we have to start thinking more. And again, this show is about women helping women. Try to do that.
Yes.
In your everyday life, try always to at least try to uplift at least one.
Exactly.
And you'll feel better, and I know that you'll make somebody else's day.
So if I see you on that path,
Yeah.
I will encourage you, and I pray you will encourage me.
Yeah. A good way to end.
Yes.
I'm Linda,
And I'm Andrea.
and we hope that you
Share,
like.
and most of all, subscribe.
Until next time.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.